I'm Augustus Daniel, I'm a farmer, I'm a builder, and I just get back.
This public service announcement is brought to you by Kairi FM in collaboration with the Ministry of Health. Get vaxxed today.
Live from our studios in the nation's capital, your most reliable source for news, national, regional, and the rest of the world. Welcome to Kairi FM's Major News. Here's your presenter.
Good evening and welcome to Kairi FM's Major News. I am Steve Vidal. Here are the headlines making the major news. Tipper Truckers Association satisfied after meeting with Prime Minister Skerrit and other ministers. Employers are forced to create new employment types due to the current COVID-19 pandemic. PNP calls for probe into missing money at customs in Jamaica, and a state of emergency has been declared in British Columbia. We'll bring you the details in a moment. Are you looking for good eggs? I mean quality fresh eggs straight from the farm? Well, we have exactly what you're looking for, no matter the quantity. We've got the right amount. Visit us at Prince City downstairs Kairi FM on Independence Street for your fresh farm eggs, or call telephone 448-7331, 448-7330 or 448-8752 and we'll get you your fresh farm eggs.
I'm not exaggerating, boiling with excitement. This Christmas, unlock a new digital world with 45% off a new DL3 Plus Pro smartphone from Digicel. Get it now when you buy a 30-day 25GB Prime Jumbo bundle to enjoy all your favorite Digicel apps. The best smartphone with the best apps. Enjoy a 6.2-inch screen to watch more Christmas classics in Playgo. Dual 5-megapixel camera to capture more Christmas moments. And then store it all in Billo, from blockbuster movies and chop-chopping music to streaming live sports, video chats, and so much more. Get yourself a DL3 Plus Pro for $200 or gift it to someone you love. Visit a Digicel store today.
Do you listen to Kairi? Download the Kairi FM Android app on Google Play Store for 24/7 radio on the go. Visit our website at www.kairifm.com and stay connected with all your favorite programs. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram and never miss a beat on your genuine sound. Kairi FM.
Welcome back and good evening, and welcome to our viewers and listeners on Variety Radio in Antigua, Barbuda, and Flow Television, Channel 119 in St. Lucia. Now for the details of the news. Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit and other government ministers met with the executive of the Tipper Truckers Association today. President of the association, Anton Laville, spoke to Idona John Baptist moments ago about today's meeting.
Held at a pretty professional level, well respected. We had a very good interaction with the Prime Minister and the other ministers. The Prime Minister made quite a few recommendations, one of which is to set up a committee which will look into the rates at which the truckers and the local contractors operate. And I think that is a pretty good idea. Basically, he's saying that he thinks that we need to have a level playing ground in terms of the rates that we use, and we have realized that one of the things that have affected the truckers, because we have been operating at a certain rate. However, that rate was established, I think, or reviewed since 1980 or 85. So the Prime Minister is saying that we need to review that, which I think we accept it and we welcome in that recommendation.
What about the issues to do with the not being employed on these road projects?
Well, really and truly, we spoke to the Prime Minister about that, because the Tipper Truckers Association, we have basically our unique problems. We're expecting today that to meet with the Prime Minister, that is the Tipper Truckers Association. We're not expecting the other stakeholders. However, we have our contribution at that meeting, and the Prime Minister gave us his word that he will be meeting us on Monday. So we are keeping our fingers crossed, and he has actually given us his word that is going to intervene and try to assist or resolve that problem that we have. So we have to wait until Monday to actually say, give the outcome of the meeting. But we have our expectations are high, seeing that he has reached out and he has showed his willingness to assist the tipper truckers.
That's the president of the Tipper Truckers Association, Anton Laville, speaking with Kairi's senior news editor, Idona John Baptist. Government advisor and senior counsel Anthony Astin has reacted to a statement made by the opposition leader that he is willing to work with the cabinet of Dominica under the leadership of Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit. Opposition leader Lennox Linton said if Prime Minister Skerrit says he's stepping down and would like Linton to be the Minister for Reconstruction, then that would be something for consideration.
I am not going to say to anybody in Dominica right now whether or not I would accept a position in the cabinet of Dominica, not knowing what the circumstances of serving in the cabinet would be. I mean, there are a number of different scenarios, Suppose Mr. Skerrit decides to step down. And Mr. Skerrit decides in stepping down, he would like me to become the minister, the Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance. So we enter into an arrangement for that to happen. That's something for consideration. There's nothing for consideration right now. So it's a bridge that is too far for me. Suppose Mr. Skerrit were to say, well, why don't we assign you the Minister for National Reconstruction with the authority to bring in a team that would take care of the needs of Dominica over the next 5 years. Those are specific assignments for consideration.
But Senior Counsel Anthony Astin has a different view on the matter.
But here is a man telling you that he expected to leapfrog over an entire cabinet, an entire political party that's opposed to him or he opposes, to become possibly a member of the cabinet of Roosevelt Skerrit. Now that's interesting. Let me just begin there, because it means that he's prepared to work with Roosevelt Skerrit, but in the cabinet. And unless he's in the cabinet, he has no intentions to cooperate with the government on any matter concerning the people of the country. What does that tell you? 1 and 1 equals 2? That tells me this man is a power-hungry fellow. He's not interested in public service. He's not interested in governance. He's not interested in the people of this country, as the track record of the United Workers' Party shows, and as their current disrespect for the people of Grand Bay shows by their refusal to put a candidate forward, as the Labour Party has done in the previous by-elections in Salisbury and Marigot. Give the people an option to hear from your party and your candidate as to what they can do for you.
Senior Counsel Anthony Astin. Executive Director of the Dominica Employers Federation, Ashiel Joseph, says the COVID-19 pandemic has forced employers to come up with new employment types. Responding to a question regarding the issue of employees working overtime in a work or at home situation, Joseph says how this is treated would depend on the employer.
So some instances, the 8-hour day would reduce. In other instances, it may remain. In some instances, it may create a flex time, meaning that 2 hours here, a break, 2 hours later on, a break, another 2 hours later on, and some instances it may go beyond. With regard to the overtime issue, that is going to be very specific to the actual enterprise and employee. I know of a place where employees work 3 days a week, and the 4 days they don't work, simply because of the challenges of supervising employees who are working from their home 5 days a week. So employers are creating new forms of management and supervision and work types because of the challenges that COVID is playing upon us right now.
Joseph says the pandemic is posing challenges for the legal landscape since these issues are not represented in the country's legislation, which for the most part dates back to the 1970s. The
challenges it has presented for our legal landscape, because obviously our legal drafters didn't know about COVID at the time they drafted most of our legislation. The bulk of our legislation dates back to the 1970s. COVID is not there, and not even the challenges that COVID presented would be in our legislation. So we have to rely a lot on best practices as well as to common law or precedent law, that is case rule in the court, and not just in Dominica Court, we're talking about the entire Commonwealth jurisdiction, to guide us on how best to resolve it. And most of it comes to common sense and how to keep business active as well as our employment force occupied.
The Employers Federation acknowledges that online learning has also created inconveniences for working parents.
There are employees who have tremendous challenges with the online learning that the Ministry of Education has embarked upon. There is now I recently had that discussion with an employer. There is now a creation of a new class of employees in Dominica who now take care of people's children, helping them with online learning, because the traditional nanny cannot understand the computer. The traditional nanny cannot supervise the site the children go on. So you now need to hire another person now to assist your children. And that is in the same household where you find some employees are working. Okay, so the challenges are manifesting themselves in really complex ways that we got to look for solutions.
Executive Director of the Dominica Employers Federation, Ashiel Joseph. 2022 staging of the Stardom Calypso Tent is high on the agenda for its organizers. Chairman of the Stardom Calypso Tent, Norman Later, says plans are already in place to host the event.
We expect to have our Stardom Calypso Tent next year. We had it this year, but I'm sure if we have it next year, it will be plenty better because we have the experience. We had never had a virtual tent, so this year we had virtual and live, and I suppose next year we will definitely have it virtual and live. If they are having carnival, then it will be on a normal Calypso tent. We are planning a very good tent. Because of our experience last year, we have learned a lot.
Later agrees that vaccination rates would have to increase for physical carnival activities to be staged.
Well, actually we have had one or two meetings already, and we have decided that we are having the tent. I would really love to see carnival next year, but I know to have carnival, especially the jump up and big shows like Calypso show, etc., you would need mass vaccination.
And that was Norman Later. Chief Fisheries Officer Julian Defoe says he's satisfied with the progress of the rehabilitation project for the ROSSO Fisheries Complex despite limited progress due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The rehabilitation project for the ROSSO Fisheries Complex and Marigot Fisheries Complex has been ongoing. A kick-off meeting was held September 23rd between the Ministry of Blue and Green Economy, contractors from Japan, Netosimo Company Limited, and Oyo construction firms. Mr. Defoe says that despite COVID-19 related restrictions, he is pleased with the development of the ROSSO Fisheries Complex restoration project.
So thus far, we are satisfied with the progress. As you know, the contracts end in August 31st, 2022. So while we have had some limited progress due to COVID, we are assured by the contractors based on the implementation plan that they will do their best and strive to finish before the allotted time. On site so far, we have approximately 36 individuals employed by Oyo Construction, 5 of which are women, which we are very happy to see, and Oyo Construction have even given their further commitment that they might want to improve the number of females on site. As you know, the construction sector has not been a traditional area for women, so this is much welcome news.
Among the project's activities will be to build a more resilient roof for the ROSSO Fisheries Complex.
A number of tasks has been achieved, primarily one being the temporary fencing and gate around the construction area have been completed. Demolition works of the existing structure at the machine room and cooling equipment have been completed. Demolition works of the existing staircase on the western side of the facility and other demolition works such as the removal of cold storage system and ice making machine equipment. We also had excavation works for the foundation of the machine room towards the north of the facility. Other great progress so far has been the formwork for the roof slab at the first floor of the building, and preparation of rebar for the roof slab, which is, as you know, the zinc roof is going to be fully restored with roof slab construction covered with zinc to improve the resilience of the roof.
Chief Fisheries Officer Julian Defoe. Sunday, November 21st will be observed as World Fisheries Day. The Fisheries Division will celebrate this year by engaging fisherfolk and the wider public in virtual meetings and trainings, radio and television programs, and an outreach to needy institutions. You're listening to Kairi FM's major news at 5:45 p.m. In more news this evening, ferry operator Express Diesel has made infrastructural changes to facilitate the resumption of services to and from Dominica routes. The government of Dominica announced the resumption, that is, of ferry services to the island of Dominica this week. HHV Whitchurch and Company is the local agent for Express Diesel.
So the 8-hour day would
Continuing with the evening news, the opposition People's National Party in Jamaica is calling for Major Organization Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency MOCA to immediately commence a probe into missing monies from the Jamaica Customs Agency, the JCA. In a report tabled in Parliament this week, the Auditor General highlighted a financial exposure to the JCA of over $2 billion and uncollected revenues of over $664 million. Describing the discoveries as deeply troubling, Opposition spokesman on finance Julian Robinson, in a statement on Thursday, said it is critically important to determine whether or not this loss to the government's coffers is as a result of negligence or deliberate criminal conduct. The Auditor's General Department carried out a special audit of the JCA's private bonded warehouses and the bunkering operations and found violations of laws that resulted in billions of dollars of uncollected revenue. Internationally, a state of emergency has been declared in the Canadian western province of British Columbia after a major storm cut road and rail links in the region. The Canadian Armed Forces have been deployed to help thousands of stranded residents who've been trapped since the storm hit overnight on Sunday. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau pledged assistance during a visit to Washington and said troops would help rebuild. One woman was killed in a landslide and 2 other persons are still missing. Some 20,000 people are yet to return to their homes after an atmospheric river, a long strip of moisture in the air that transports water from tropical areas towards the poles, dumped the region's monthly rainfall average in 24 hours. That's the evening news. Before we leave you, a quick look at the headlines once again. Tipper Truckers Association satisfied after meeting with Prime Minister Skerrit and other ministers of government. Employers are forced to create new employment types due to the current pandemic. PNP calls for MOCA, Jamaica, probe into missing money at customs. And a state of emergency has been declared in British Columbia. Join us tomorrow morning at 6:30 for the morning news. On behalf of the entire news and production team and our sponsors, good night.